What's up, everybody? My name is Jake Demai. I have a bookkeeping business, and my business makes about $20,000 to $25,000 a month. I'm on track to do about $250,000 in revenue, and it'll be about like $215,000, $220,000 of profit. And so this business, guys, I started it from scratch about 4 years ago, and guys, it was one of the best decisions I ever made in starting a business, leaving my full-time job. I worked at a tax firm for a while. I passed my CPA exams. I went to school for accounting. And honestly, I wasn't very good at accounting when I first started. I was a pretty below average employee, actually. And, I never felt like I could succeed as an employee. And I always had this itch to be self-employed. It was mainly, I really just didn't want to be told what to do. I wanted to have more control over my life. I wanted to have more control over my pay. I wanted to be able to wear whatever I wanted to wear. I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it was more of like a principle thing for me. Like nobody can tell me what to do. And I get it, guys. Like when you're an employee, you have to do what you're told. But for me, guys, especially 7 years, I worked in the accounting field for about 7 years before starting my business. And I think once I got to like 6 or 7 years, especially during COVID, COVID was like the last straw for me. But eventually I just got fed up with the whole corporate life, the politics around it, not getting promoted. I'm a little bit bitter about it. Not getting the pay that I really needed for my family. I was making about $80,000 a year as an employee, which, guys, it's great. Like I was happy about it. But I knew there was more that I could be making. And especially for my growing family, I have 4 kids now. I'm married. My wife doesn't work. And so I really wanted to make it possible for my wife to not have to work. I didn't want to have to worry about money, but it was just inevitable. When you have 4 kids at $80,000, there's just no way. It's really hard to make it work, especially with inflation these days. And so in this video, guys, I want to kind of share a little bit, some of the reasons for why owning a bookkeeping business is like the best thing you can possibly do. There's a lot of businesses you could start. If you're an accountant, you could start a CPA firm doing tax work. You could be doing audit. There's some niches in accounting. You could do payroll. You could do sales tax. You could do you could work specifically with nonprofits and do tax work there. There's a lot of different areas you could go in terms of if you're an accountant. If you're not an accountant, you typically are going to look for a business with your skill set. And if you're not an accountant, this video is probably not for you. You really do need to have accounting experience to start a bookkeeping company. I know people have done it before. And so maybe you are good with numbers and you've worked in finance. And so maybe you can make it work if you're, half intelligent, and if you're a normal person. I'm half intelligent and I'm a semi-normal person, and I've made it work. And so, guys, if I can do it, if I can start this business, you can too. And the hardest part, I feel like, for a lot of people is actually starting it and being motivated to start it. And so that's kind of how I feel like this video is going to go. I'm going to try to convince you to start a bookkeeping business. And I really want you to start a bookkeeping business. I'm not worried about competition because there are so many businesses that need bookkeeping. And, that's one of the amazing things about a bookkeeping business is that it's a necessary business. It's a necessary service. If you're a business and you are making money, you're going to need to do bookkeeping. It's inevitable. You have to do bookkeeping. And a lot of business owners will just do it themselves. And a lot of business owners will, pull out their hair, they'll mess up their books, they'll do it themselves, especially if they're small, if they're a young business. But as the business grows, they're going to see the need to outsource this part of the business. It's actually one of the first things you can outsource. A lot of people don't know that, but because of the work I do, it's fully remote. I can jump into their QuickBooks account, and all I need is the bank access and a few other pieces of information, and I can get the bookkeeping work done. And a lot of business owners don't know that, and they're like pulling their hair out trying to get the books done. And at the end of the year, things aren't together. And so, as a bookkeeper, it's a necessary service. Okay. So I'm going to lay out for you the reasons why you need to start a bookkeeping business in 2025. Reason number 1, and I think this is the best thing about owning a bookkeeping business. It's recurring monthly revenue. Recurring monthly revenue. Say it with me. Just kidding. I'm not going to make you do that. Recurring monthly revenue, guys, is unbelievable. It is like passive income. It's not because you're doing the work, but when you sign on a client, when you sign on a business calls you, a business owner calls you and says, hey, we need you to be our bookkeeper. That's like one of the best calls you can get. It's hard to find clients, and I have a whole nother video on how to find clients, but when you get that call, when you sign that client on, when they sign on, when they fill out the ACH form for automatic payments to you, you will get money from this person, from this business every single month for the same work. And guys, I can't emphasize enough how important this is. It's like gold to always have the same amount of money coming in every single month. I know a lot of business owners because I work in bookkeeping, obviously. So I've met hundreds of I've met hundreds of business owners at this point, and they're all stressed out of their minds. But you know, the number one reason why they're stressed is because the next month is not guaranteed. If they stop, the business stops. If the business fails, or if the business doesn't do very well, or if the business isn't proactive enough, their sales will dip. With a bookkeeping business, guys, I know how much money I'm going to make next month. I know how much money I'm going to make next year. I know how much money I'm going to make this month. And guys, it isn't because I put in more time. It's not because I was out in the streets, working my butt off with trying to bring clients in. It's not because I worked harder. It's simply because of the recurring monthly revenue. Every single month, every client pays me between $300 and $750 a month. And it doesn't matter how long I work on the client. It doesn't matter how creative I am. It's the same work being done every single month. Okay. And so, yeah, bookkeeping might be a boring business. It might even feel like it's beneath you, like you are better than that. But guys, the boring businesses win every single time. And so monthly recurring revenue is unbelievable. Okay. And going back to my original point about it being a necessary business, this is important too, because there are a lot of businesses you can start that are, especially in the accounting world, that are more of like luxurious things that business owners can buy. And I'm thinking mainly of like CFO and controller work. If you're thinking about starting in like a CFO, an outsourced like fractional CFO business, you can do it. There's nothing wrong with it, but I think a bookkeeping business is better because it's an absolutely necessary service. And, the CFO work isn't going to be needed every single month. And the problem with CFO work too is that if the business doesn't do well, it kind of falls on your shoulders as a CFO. If it doesn't do well, you need to think outside the box. You need to get creative. You need to come up with these new reports and new ways of showing the income, and you need to meet with them, either weekly or monthly. And so that's not the case with a bookkeeping business. I don't have to do something new every month. I don't have to meet with my clients. I don't have to be the reason for their success. Most of the businesses that work with me do well because they're growing and they hire me and they're kind of on the upward trend. But some businesses don't do well, and that's not my fault. All I do is I report on the historical numbers. I'm not like telling them how to run their business, because honestly, I don't. I can just tell them how the numbers look, and I can show them trends. But yeah, guys, it's just, to me, it's a no-brainer. If you're thinking about CFO work or bookkeeping work, guys, focus on bookkeeping, because it'll just be a lot easier. It's a lot simpler. Okay. Point number 3. So point number 1 was recurring monthly revenue. I talked about it being a necessary service. It's number 2. Number 3, guys, and this is also maybe one of the most underrated parts of owning a bookkeeping business, is that it's fully remote. So how many businesses are fully remote? I don't meet with clients. I come to this office, which is incredible. I love my office, but I don't have to work in an office. If I wanted to work from home, I could. In fact, when I started my business as a side gig 4 years ago, I worked out of my basement. I worked when the kids were napping. I worked in the mornings, at nights. It didn't matter when I worked or where I worked. It was just, my business was based on the product, the service. And I didn't have to be watched. No one was watching me do the work. And what's beautiful about that is that it helps you to takes a lot of stress out because nobody is counting how long it takes you to do a job. You're truly paid off of the value you provide and not off the time it takes to get that done. Because most business owners, they have no clue how long it takes to categorize transactions, to reconcile the banks, to send out financial statements. As far as they're concerned, it could be taking me, hours and hours and hours every single day to do their books. Because it's not based off of that. It's based on the value that I'm providing. So when I do a job, guys, on average, it's about $400 a month is what I typically charge. And it takes me like 1 to 2 hours to do that. And because it's fully remote, I can do it whenever I want, however I want. And I can work in this office. I can get up, get coffee. I can go home to be with my kids real quick if they need me. Yesterday I went home because my daughter just got a new bike and I wanted to go on a ride with her. I can pick up my kids from school. I can be involved as a dad. These are some of the things that you couldn't do if it wasn't fully remote. And the more I work with other businesses, the more I realize that this is like a really big plus to owning a bookkeeping business. And then, guys, so the fourth point is that it's extremely profitable. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I make between $20,000 to $25,000 a month in revenue, and so I have like $3,000 to $4,000 of expenses, and so I profit around $17,000 to like $20,000 a month in profit. That's like take home profit, and I don't know, guys. Like, to me, that seems like a lot of money. I know there's other bookkeepers that maybe do better than that. I'm sure there are tax firms that make more than that, obviously. But there's just something amazing about making that kind of money with such little amount of work. Because like I said, it's like passive income. And it's like passive income because it's recurring and I'm not like busting my butt to get new money. But it's also, I have an employee. And so I have an employee now that does like 80% of the work. I mean, I fine tune it at the end. I provide like my value to the client. I send the emails. I create videos, like Loom videos to my clients, explaining the financials in more depth if they want that, if they're willing to pay for it. And so, it's just, it's extremely profitable. And I make triple the amount of money I used to make. And I probably work half the amount of time. And so that's just like, to me, it's a no-brainer. Like, that's unbelievable. And there's also so much potential in my business too, because I think with an employee, I think I could easily get to $35,000, $40,000 a month. And so before you know it, I'm making $400,000, $500,000 in revenue with maybe a couple of employees. And guys, I just think that's amazing. The last point I'll make here, guys, is when you do grow your business to a certain point, because I focus exclusively on bookkeeping, I don't do like tax work. I don't do CFO work. We talked about that. Because I focused exclusively on bookkeeping, it's made my business very simple. I do the same thing for every client. And every client is different, and I don't want to make it sound like it's an easy business because it can be complicated, it can be hard. But what the point I'm trying to make is it's simple for hiring. Like in hiring my employee, it has been so easy to hire to take over the work that I'm doing. The reason for that is because it's the same work every single month. And if an employee can master in months 1 and 2, then they'll have that client mastered every single month after that because it's the same work. And because it's only bookkeeping work, they don't have to learn something new every single month. They can just master their bookkeeping skills. They can really hone in on their accounting, and they can focus their time and energy on that one thing. And so that's another reason, guys, why owning a bookkeeping business is incredible. So that's it, guys. That's all I wanted to share. Hopefully that's helpful. If you are an accountant and you're thinking about starting a bookkeeping business, I have some other videos that may be helpful for you. And if you are interested in doing a one-on-one call with me, there's also a link in the description of my video, in my profile of YouTube that will allow you to book a time with me. It does come at a cost. But I do find that a lot of the people I talk to benefit tremendously because I can provide like a customized plan for each person that comes to me who wants to start their own bookkeeping business. So, guys, if you're on the fence, do it. You'll never regret it. I'll come back with some more videos and some other topics, so stay tuned. Thanks, guys.